Hello, my name's Kevin Benedict. I'm Senior Analyst for Digital Transformation here at Cognizant. And I want to thank you for joining us today. And this is the first interview of 2015 for me. So thank you for joining and Happy New Year. And I want to introduce you to the first guest of 2015 is Grace Alcivar. Grace, thank you for joining.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you. And Happy New Year to you, too.
And Grace is the Director of Healthcare Vertical for Corning, Inc. And she is also an expert in the area of digital transformation. In an area we've never talked about is we're really going to focus right now today on infrastructure. Because for a lot of us, digital transformation is represented with mobile phones and, video, streaming video and mobile apps, that kind of thing. But there's a lot that goes on behind it. So again, Grace, thank you for joining us. Where are you calling from?
Well, I'm calling from my home this morning. I live right in Washington, D.C., so right in Adams, Morgan. It's nice here. We're having a bit of a heat spell here. We're up in the mid-50s for some reason or the other. Nobody really knows why. Weather forecast was supposed to be some sort of snow, and yesterday a bunch of us were hanging out in shorts. So I love it. I love
awesome.
it.
I've had snow here for several weeks here in Boise, Idaho. I'm wearing my warm flannel, but freezing rain here this morning. So again, thank you for joining us today. Before I get going, I've been having breakfast here. Do I have any blueberries?
No, I don't.
No blueberries in my tea.
Yeah,
I just want
pretty
to
much got them. Yeah.
Yeah, before anybody sees this.
That's so funny.
So, Grace, talk to me about digital transformation and Corning. Now, how do you see this whole digital transformation that's shaking up so many different industries with mobile apps and all big data and so much data going back and forth? How does that impact a giant like Corning?
That's a good question. I mean, Corning Incorporated, whenever you talk about Corning, everybody talks about, oh, wow, Corningware, right? I mean, is that what you guys do? So, the brand name Corningware is so popular, it's so famous, which kind of tells you something about the company. It was an amazing product. It was an unbreakable dish, basically, that was a component. It was a mix of glass and some other materials. So Corning has kind of made its name on being this material substance provider. They kind of provide the stuff that goes into other things. And part of that stuff, specifically on the glass side, is fiber. Corning is one of the largest manufacturers of fiber worldwide. And fiber for telecommunication networks, right? And so what they've done, and a lot of people don't think of Corning in this way, as we're really an infrastructure provider. That one of our goals here, corporate wide, is we really want to enable all kinds of technologies, and specifically in the wireless group, which is the group that I'm specifically in. Okay. We do fiber-enabled distributed antenna systems, and so basically what that is, the extension of cellular coverage in very, very large venues. But it's more than that. We're looking at all kinds of things that we can do with glass, right? Because if you think about it, glass, and that's how fiber is made, right? Fiber is just a very, very, very thin little thing of glass, and you think this, you see this little cable, and you think, okay, well, what is so great about that? What's great about it is that it allows you to send data, any type of digitized data, which is the digital transformation piece, like 1,000 times quicker than what is in the majority of our infrastructure base, right, which is coaxial cable. And so Corning's vision is to really drive fiber everywhere we can, right? We've seen huge uptake in our carrier space this year. We've been very successful in our fiber space. And when the carriers start doing it, and they start doing it everywhere, then what we're definitely hoping is that gets transformed into the enterprise, right? So
I have a scenario. I'm a big fan of Boise State, the 2014, or I should say 2014 because it was December 31, Fiesta Bowl championship. So when I
Okay,
go to the
good
game,
orange, and I love that color. It's good, very
yeah,
bright.
so when I go to the Boise State Broncos games and I want to send somebody a photo from the stadium, it goes nowhere
Bingo, right.
because everybody's in that stadium and I can't get anything to go out. I can't send Facebook, Instagram, anything.
Hmm.
So what could you do to help that kind of situation?
Well, we can do a lot. We can do a lot. I mean, one of the things that actually we recently did is we partnered with IBM. And that's Corning kind of has a business model. We partner with all kinds of system integrators.
Hmm.
And what we did is we basically we've redone the Texas A&M football stadium. I mean, this
Really?
is one of the, yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's one of the, and I didn't really know this until we started getting involved. It's one of the largest college football stadiums, uh, period. It's huge. It's greater than 100,000 people.
That's bigger even than Bronco Stadium here in Boise.
It's bigger than the Broncos. It's bigger than Boise. I mean, it's enormous, right? And it's incredible. You think about all those people in the same place, wanting to send a picture, wanting to text, wanting to tweet, wanting to send their pictures to Instagram. They just get stalled, right? It just doesn't go anywhere, right? So what we did is we partnered with
Let's, let's start off, Grayson, but just saying, why doesn't it go anywhere? What's the problem?
well, the problem is that typically your Wi-Fi devices, right? Because everything's Wi-Fi enabled these days, right? That has to go to an access point, right? And access points, it has to have a very dense design. You need a bunch of them, but they have to be interconnected with something. They have to have power, right? And so what happens is there's only some, all those small access points have to be interconnected with some sort of wiring, and it has to go to a telecommunications closet. If you go inside these telecommunication closets, sometimes they literally look like mini data centers, right? There's so much stuff in there. There's so much cabling. There's so much like switches. There's so much stuff that has to receive the signal and transform it up to like a cell tower, okay?
Yeah.
That it's done. It's dense. I mean, like at a certain point, you just can't fit anything anymore in there, and it's very difficult to do moves, adds, and changes. So after a certain point, you just get glutted, okay? And the reason it doesn't go anywhere is as more people use all this data and they use all their mobile apps, because if you think about how many different mobile apps are really starting to use some of the native technology in your devices, the data starts increases, the access points have to get increased, and then what you do is you have to increase the bandwidth on the telecom closet and on up to the cell site, and at a certain point, you just can't do it anymore.
Right.
With the coax stuff that you've got and with the infrastructure you've got. So these enterprises and college stadiums and large public venues, like shopping malls and stuff, they go to their vendors and they're saying, what can we do? And basically there's typically a new version of something. But the real base problem, I mean, there's always a new version of a switch or something that you can add, it condensed and all that stuff, because we all know that hardware is getting very condensed, getting very digitized, very smaller.
Right.
The thing is, though, it's really the back end. It's really what's carrying all that data from point A to point B that, if you've ever seen a coax cable, it's not friendly. I mean, it's huge, it's got a big radius and it can't bend, and you have to you have to put a lot of the cabling through just to connect a couple of devices. So it gets to be very arduous on the installation side because if you have to keep upgrading, you have to keep getting more installers in, etc.
Right.
So Corning kind of stepped back and we took a look at this problem. We said, you know what we really need is to transform the back end. That's really our space, right? We're infrastructure. And we said if we could get and consolidate and make it easier for venues such as Texas A&M and such as, hospitals and hotels to just be able to interconnect all these various applications. And I consider a PON system an application. I consider a DAS system an application. All on one fiber through hardware, that's a heck of a lot more efficient because that way you don't have to change out your infrastructure every 5 years, which was kind of the recurring that we started seeing with some end customers. You keep it in, right? I mean, you just, wire it up with fiber, and all you got to do when you add, more devices or if you add more bandwidth or more infrastructure is just pull another fiber. And so it's just longer term, we believe that that's the way networks are going to be going. We've seen the huge growth in the carrier space, and we're betting on the fact that it's definitely going to go into the enterprise space.
So talk to me about, we'll get back to Texas A&M here for some more details, but what's the role of mobile devices and tablets and video and digital? Is that what's driving this demand for more and more optimized infrastructure?
Totally, totally. It's totally about the big data space, and it's totally about people wanting data to be mobile. Okay, so the mobile piece manifests itself in various ways, right? It manifests itself with, with your cellular device. It manifests itself with all your iPads.
Yeah.
We've also got a lot more, depending on industries, you have a lot more data enabled, or for instance, Wi-Fi enabled devices. Like my industry, healthcare, huge. Huge. I mean, there's so much stuff in a hospital that's Wi-Fi enabled. The usage of RFID, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hospitals use RFID to track inventory. They use it to track medication that they get out. They use it to track patients. I mean, there's so much that you can do having a wireless signal, whether it's low frequency or high frequency. You've got to have a piece of hardware to receive that, and that's got to be interconnected to some sort of network so that you can see, okay, where is my thing? What's happening? Where is it? And on top of that,
where's my equipment? Where's my patients? Where's my healthcare providers? What room is it in? Everything is given. We call that code halos, a circle of data, if you would, surrounding each piece of equipment, each patient, provider, and that code has to be going through some mechanism, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And on top of that, all these businesses now, they're not only interested in where their stuff is, they're interested in what people are doing with it. So you've got that whole, everyone, you hear in the industry a lot about data analytics. What does it mean? Okay, so what it means is you're taking all that information and those, things that are being measured from the various devices, but that's just data. That doesn't help you with anything. You need to make that into information so that people can actually use decisions on it. Well, guess what? Data analytics tools is just another data device. It's another data application. It's another piece of software that needs enablement, right? So again, that's where your bandwidth, your network, your telecommunications network is really important to be able to enable that.
Wow, and as more of the Internet of Things moves out into each new industry or different industry and continues to expand, I'm sure the demand for additional data will simply increase from there.
Yeah. And the other thing too, like something as an example, the density of some of these files is increasing too, because if you just look at it with digital photography, I remember when, you get like the little cool pics, and all that stuff. Now, if you've actually got like a high-end, like a Canon or a Nikon camera, and you try and upload one of those pictures, it's taking forever. Like you're like, you're churning, That's because the density and the pixels and the technology have increased to the point of, with the whole manifestation of like HD, and super HD and all that means your files get a lot fatter. And when they get fatter, that means that you need more data, you need faster data enablement, because you don't want to wait until the thing uploads, right?
Right.
You're waiting for your radiology. You don't want to wait for it. You've got to hurry up and get the picture so you can see what's wrong, right?
So now let's take it back to the scenario of 100,000 fans going to Texas A&M Stadium, carrying their device, and everybody wants HD video or photos.
Yep.
What was the actual problem that Texas A&M Stadium was looking to solve by bringing in Corning fiber?
Well, they were working very closely with our partner IBM, and what they were looking to do is they really wanted to do an upgrade of their stadium to include audio-visual, right? They wanted to put all kinds of TVs everywhere so that no matter where you were physically in the stadium, you could always see what was going on. They also wanted to enable all the ticketing wirelessly, right? And they wanted to do the tracking that way. So there was a lot of point of sale applications. They also wanted to, they had a lot of security too, right? They have a lot of, that's another big thing. Security cameras are everywhere, right? So not only for the players, but for the audience, for safety, for everything. And so those security cameras were IP enabled, okay? And they wanted to also really create a very sort of intense Wi-Fi network so their customers, the fans, right, could come and text and tweet and, you know, and they could do all sorts of really cool applications on top of that, right? They wanted to be able to do, you know, follow the fan, and they want to be able to, you know, be able to follow the players and all that stuff. So they were looking to do a big upgrade, and they were just kind of saying, okay, why don't we just kind of go the regular route, which is they were going to go with their sort of the typical infrastructure.
Right.
But they also, the other problem was, this is something that's, you know, sometimes overlooked, you know, game day is 1 day out of 365 days, right? But on day 2, when the game is over, there's nobody there, right? So the investment is like, wow, I'm going to put all this stuff, right? And then I'm going to use it for just a few days, you know, because basically the actual game days are, I think it's like, it's 10 or something like that throughout the season. What do they do on day 2, right? So what happened was we were able to get in there with IBM. And because we told them, we said, look, if you go a different route, which is do a fiber-enabled infrastructure, where basically if you put everything on a fiber network, you'll be able to put all these applications on, right? And you really don't need, you're going to be basically going to have unlimited bandwidth for a really, really long time, right? I mean, we just really going to have for a really, really long time. I mean, we're not going to say forever, but
right.
They're not going to need to change out every 5 years the way they were looking to do because of the data, right?
Right.
On top of that, you'll be able to, because it's fiber, the software that ourselves and also IBM also uses for several other applications that they enabled with Texas A&M, you can actually see very closely which network devices are on and which are on, and you can manipulate them for higher density areas, not only during the game, but on day 2, you can switch that bandwidth over to somewhere else in the university, right? Wow. So you'll be able to reuse your technology and all this investment in a really, really smart way, and you're able to do it via software. You don't necessarily have to physically go out and redo the network physically. It's all based on the software, you know, that enables all this.
So on game day, they could. When it's not game day, they're sharing the capacity across the whole university. On game day, they can focus it more on the stadium. Is that how I understand it? Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and because of the size of the of the stadium, right? We've had to do this in several phases. Yes. But it's been, you know, several of our execs went on game day, you know, with several of our key implementation people, and they said there was not a hiccup whatsoever, right? I mean, they were able to enable everything pretty well, and fans love it. The Texas A&M loves it. So I mean, we're pretty excited about it. We're pretty excited about what it does, you know, but it's, you know, it's infrastructure. People don't really think about it. They just think about the application side, right? So that's where it stands.
This is terrific because, as you just pointed out, rarely do we think about what it really takes. We just think no matter what we put on our phone, the cell tower should be able to support it. And then we get to our stadiums and they can't or the malls or these other places simply aren't the connectivity. But all this digital transformation drives this need for infrastructure change behind the scenes as well. Yeah. So I thank you so much, Grace, for educating us and sharing with us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Kevin. It was great. You know, I mean, when I met you at the conference, you know, and I got all excited about talking about what we can do for this, you know, it was the type of thing, I go to all these conferences like you do, and I'm like, you know, everyone's talking about applications. Nobody's talking about infrastructure. Man, how do we get the word out? So I was pretty excited when you asked me to do this. So anytime you need something, let us know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a great day. Bye.